Welcome to Real Possibilities with AARP Connecticut. Hi, I'm Elaine Warner, your host. I am the Senior Program Specialist for Public Outreach and Volunteer Engagement on staff with the AARP Connecticut office. And in just a moment, I am going to go to what I think is an impactful topic with a very special guest. But first, Real Possibilities. You may know us as the American Association of Retired Persons, and indeed, most of our members, 600,000 right here in the state of Connecticut, and if you're one of them, we want to say thank you, are retired, but many of our members are as well still working, as our membership starts at 50 and older. And by the way, 38 million members in the United States and growing. We're becoming older, and Connecticut's one of the oldest states age-wise in the nation. So Real Possibilities, a new enhanced branding for AARP. And you know, many of us are living to be older, a longer age, into our 90s. It's said now that the millennials can even look at the age of 100 and beyond. So that moves me to what I think is a very important topic today, and that is called caregiving. Perhaps I'm talking to you as an existing caregiver, or if you haven't been, because many of us are living longer, it is probable that we will be in the need of receiving care. And just to sort of hit that point home, I want to read you some pretty awesome statistics about Connecticut. There are nearly 460,000 family caregivers alone in the state of Connecticut that provide 427 million hours of unpaid care, and get this, at a cost of $5.9 billion annually. So let's move right to our topic and our special guest. Our special guest comes to us with a lot of credentials, had a long career in financial planning, which has informed her on the issue of caregiving, is a lead volunteer with AARP Connecticut on our executive council, a presenter, and if I may say, up close and personal experience with caregiving, and came to us under a program we now call Living Longer, Living Smarter. Folks as young as 40 years old have been in the program to look forward, again, so we can age with quality and dignity and think of our choices and plan for the future. So Jean Karen, welcome to Real Possibilities with AARP Connecticut, and thank you for your volunteerism.
Thank you.
And I just, I brought up what I think is, and I think you share this with me, the operative word in caregiving, planning. And you had a unique situation. You bring up close and personal experience. So if you could address, you know, your experience and the planning factor initially.
Sure. So I had a long career in financial services, primarily working with estate planning. That was such a benefit to me and to my family. I have been a caregiver for my mom for about 6 years. Talk about living longer. My mom just passed this year at the age of 97, and she was a firecracker until the very end. The good news, although the stress of caregiving, which we'll get into a little bit more, can really play havoc on folks. One of the good things was, because of my experience, I made sure that Mom had all the documents in place. She had her health care power, she had her durable power of attorney, which is really critical. It got to the point where I needed to step in and take over the finances as well as making decisions about her health care. It was so easy because I just pulled out the document and I was ready to act. I can't say enough about how important this is. And it's not something you need to think about when you're old, because let's face it, someone can be in a horrific accident at a very young age, and someone needs to be able to step in and make some of these critical decisions. So it's very, very important. Just recently, my mother-in-law is now here in Connecticut, having moved from many years in Florida, and there are some issues with her ability to make decisions, etc. She has nothing in place. And I can tell you that it is like night and day, the difference between how easy it was for me to take over and what we're facing right now. So planning, planning, planning. If you get anything out of this, please consider that.
And you know what happens? Often we wait until there's a crisis. we think that we're going to age and everything's going to be fine. You know, you talked about planning with documents, living wills, paperwork, et cetera. But again, just to reference our program, Living Longer, Living Smarter, it's not only that, but it's about the choices you make, where you want to live, how you want to live. Do you have children that you want to be near? Just address those choices a little bit about...
Yeah, I mean, it isn't just that, though I guess because of my experience, I feel it's really critically important. But you really need to begin to think about where you're living. I have an example of a friend who is living in a 3-story house, and her husband has recently had some issues with back problems, and for him to climb those stairs is really, really difficult. So you want to think about, you know, just the situation in your house.
Right.
Is it going to be easy for you to age there? What's important to you? Is it your community? Is it arts? Is it religion? Whatever it is this where I want to you know, grow old and have a good, healthy life?
And you know, that leads me to yet another program that AARP offers. It's called The Road to Livability. And by the way, with any of the programs I'm offering, we have volunteers like Jean who go out into the community and do presentations. So if you're interested in them, I'm going to mention my phone number right now, but I'll bring it up again. Again, Elaine Warner, I'm on staff with AARP. Call me, 860-548-3169. Any questions about the show today or any resources that you need on caregiving, please give me a call and we'll get that up on the screen. Jean, family dynamics. I know from speaking with you that you know, you handled a lot of this on your own. You had a great partner in your spouse and good support system there. You know, there are other families that have siblings to deal with or they don't want to deal with them. What would you say about that? Because again, you experienced on your own. Can you do it? And then and now you're dealing with, I think, with your in-law, a situation with siblings.
Yeah, I have to say for the last 5 years, people have heard me sometimes complain about how difficult it was to make all of the decisions for Mom. But actually now when I look back and I see what's happening with siblings, I think it's even much more difficult. And I think it's important for family to come together. And again, I'm going to hit on that document because in the document, you choose who it is that you want to make the major decisions for you. So, you know, that's helpful. It's not an easy situation, no matter how if you're facing it alone or with other family members.
Absolutely, it's stressful. And you know, I want to mention also, we're going to talk in just a moment about the caregiver, because this is not all about the person receiving care. You mentioned the word stress. In fact, AARP Connecticut recognizes that, and we did a couple of events in the past year. One was a healthy cooking event where we invited people that were caregivers, have a night of respite, learn about healthy cooking from a great chef in a great restaurant in Connecticut, enjoy the food, have a takeaway of the menu, maybe even a glass of wine or some great beverage, meet some other caregivers, get some resources for us. So we're very cognizant at AARP of the role of caregivers. And then, Jean, you just attended this. We did a wine tasting where we had a caregiver focus. Again, it was a respite afternoon, a Sunday afternoon, where we invited our members to travel to a couple of vineyards and again learn about caregiving, and you were there directly on site. Let's talk about, we do a lot of advocacy at AARP, always in a nonpartisan way, and we are proud to say that in the year of 2015, we passed what is called the CARE Act. If you could let our viewer know a little bit about that.
In my volunteer role, one thing that I've enjoyed so very much is the ability to work on issues that are really important to our members and all folks 50 and over. And actually this CARE Act hits all ages. Yes. So we work with legislators and inform them about the importance of a bill that we're looking to pass. And this particular one is called the CARE Act. And I have sort of two sides of the coin here experience with this. So the CARE Act basically says that when someone is admitted to a hospital, they have the right to name a family caregiver. The second part is when they are released from the hospital, the caregiver should be noticed of the release date. And the third and the most important piece of this bill was when the person is released, they are to be given detailed information as to next steps medication, wound care, doctor's appointments, so that you don't leave sort of blindly going out into the wide whatever. And so here's just two sides of the coin, if you will. So my mom, 5 years ago, when she had her major heart attack, when she was released to the hospital, there was no CARE Act. I was given a sheet of paper, very limited information, and I found myself in intense stress trying to determine what happens next here. Found my way, but the other side of the coin is last year my husband had a serious melanoma surgery on his leg. And when he was released, the CARE Act was in place. I'm telling you, they gave me so much information, and I wanted to jump up and down and say, oh my gosh, this is fabulous. And to know that I was a part of working so hard to get that bill passed just meant so much.
And Jean, I want to thank you for your advocacy on that, because I know you were one of many volunteers, but you were a lead on that as well, and very visible at the state capitol and meeting with your elected officials. And also in the CARE Act, I just want to point out, doesn't have to be a family member. You know, often there might be two elderly people, and maybe it's not a good idea for one to be trying to take care of another, and the caregiver can designate who they want to be as the caregiver. So, you know, you mentioned the word sometimes going blindly when you first started this, and I just want to point out that AARP Connecticut has created some resource material. We are very proud of this, and Jean, you're familiar with this. The Connecticut...
I'm actually quoted in there.
You are indeed. The Caregiver Resource Guide. We also produce it in Spanish. We also worked with the director of the Puerto Rico AARP office. Yes, we have an office there, 53 offices throughout the country. All of the states, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and Washington, D.C. And our state director, Nora Duncan, worked with the state director, Jose, in Puerto Rico to do this. Also available in Spanish and English. And then we have Prepare to Care. This is a whole guide, a checklist that you can go through to check off the things that you might not even think of. Again, if you're watching the program and you want to have any of these resources available to you, I am happy to send them to you. Again, I'm Elaine Werner on staff with AARP Connecticut. You can call me directly, 860-548-3169, or email me, ewerner, W-E-R-N-E-R, at aarp.org. Just include your name, your address, and your telephone number, and let me know that you want some resources. So talk about the resources a little bit, if you will, because you're familiar with them.
I think this is a really good time. Elaine mentioned that we have many programs that we bring to the community, and over the last year plus, we have realized how critical this caregiving role is. And we have developed a caregiving roadshow that we are bringing to the community, and it is so well received. Oh my goodness. And it's a program on things to consider. We start from the beginning. We talked about where is it that I want to age, how do I want to age, who do I want to handle my finances. So it starts from there, and it really works through the resources that are available to caregivers and those being cared for. It's a great program, and again, if you're interested in having it brought to your community, just contact AARP.
And that brings me also the Connecticut Home Care Program for Elders. I know you were able to tap into that. I think you learned more about it through the AARP office. If you can tell our viewer a little bit about the resources there. Yeah,
the Connecticut Home Care Program is a state-funded program that enables people to stay in their home longer. The cost for care in the home through this program is about a third of what it would cost for someone to live in a nursing home and those services to be paid for by what we call Title 19 or Medicaid. And so we have fought long and hard here in Connecticut to keep that program in place. Even with the budget cuts, the program is still in place. And through the Caregiving Roadshow, you can learn a lot more about how to tap into some of these resources. You can also go on to Department of Social Services, and you'll find a lot of the information about the Connecticut Home Care Program for Elders. It is, so basically Mom was on this program, and she had the following services. She had Meals on Wheels 5 days a week. She had companions and homemakers who came in and did some cleaning, and also took her to doctor's appointments if necessary. She had the VNA come in to make sure that her meds were being administered properly and checked on vitals. She had a life alert. That was all covered through the Connecticut Home Care Program with a very small copay paid by family members. There are income restrictions on it, but it's a fabulous program. It really is. And for me as the caregiver, it really gave me peace of mind knowing that Mom was being cared for.
You know, as the CARE Act gives you peace of mind too, just to reference that again, because that's a win-win-win situation. You know, and AARP knows that folks really want to age with quality and dignity, again, our mission in their community. But Jean, I know also you had the experience of a family member that lived independently for a long time. When people struggle with, oh, you know, mom or dad or relative, I don't want to send them to a facility or a nursing home. How do you view that? What's the balance? Is there a time when that is necessary?
Yeah, so in Mom's case, as I said, passed at 97, and up until about a year before, she was so with it, and definitely had been compromised by the major heart attack that she'd had years before, but she still put those sneakers on every day, and she was running. But in the last year, even with the care that she was getting in the home, because it was not 24/7, it was pretty much 7 days a week for so many hours a day. But it got to the point where we arrived one day and the caregiver hadn't arrived yet, and all the burners were on the stove. Frightening.
Yes.
We arrived another day and I checked the med boxes and she had taken 5 days of medication all at once. Just so happened that the VNA nurse was coming in at that very moment, and she was fine. She was fine. But certainly those are the sort of warning signals and very frightening moments where you realize, maybe this isn't such a good idea anymore. Maybe it is time to move. And Mom spent just 3 months in a nursing home, and it was time because it was funny. We would come and take her to lunch and we'd bring her back, and she'd be so excited to go back to the facility where they had activities because there were people there all the time. And it was the right time and the right place. But overall, I think people really want to stay in their home for as long as they possibly can. And I think it's just that the caregiver just needs to be cognizant when they see some of these warning signals, maybe it is time.
Absolutely. And I want to mention also, we've been talking about some of the legislation, again, in a nonpartisan way that we've supported. We also helped introduce and support, again, with other partners, something called the Paid Family Medical Leave in Connecticut. And not a cost to the employer is the way we're trying to construct it, a minimal cost to the employee. But Jean, as you know, I mean, both of us have some options, or but not many people in the workplace, or you might have had at your time some flexibility to leave their job to take care of a loved one, whether it's a day, a week, a month. People being forced to choose between their paycheck and caring for a family member or loved one. We really see it as a benefit for the employee and the employer, so we'll continue to work on it. Of course, it's been a challenging time with the Connecticut budget, and we always, if you want to just address that in general, that we're always, we're back and forth at the Capitol. Again, I always have to stress in a nonpartisan way, we don't endorse candidates, but we do support issues that are important to the 50-plus population, and we will continue to do that, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's, I think one of the things I learned from the very beginning working with my representatives was how important we really are to them. They really do want to hear our stories. They want to know what's going on in their community, and they really want to support us.
Well, on that note, you brought me right to this website here. I have to put my glasses on. I'm of that age, as we say. We ask that you also share your caregiver story, and we have a website. You're going to see it on the screen during the program, but it's called act.aarp.org/I-Heart-Caregivers. And when we hear from you and your stories, it helps recognize the caregivers in the state of Connecticut, 460,000 of them. And it gets your story out there. As Jean was saying, the elected officials are informed by the stories that are on the ground of the actual, excuse me, as Jean is talking about today, of her experiences with her mother and now her in-law, that really informs them on future legislation and support. And Jean, you're also aware of another program that comes up, many programs that we have, obviously. It is called the Fraud Watch Network, and it's so important to protect your resources. Certainly, if you have a telephone, you use an iPhone or the internet, that there are times you might receive a phone call or see a website that doesn't seem just right, and could it be a scam? And sometimes it is. So we have a whole program to protect and prevent fraud. And sometimes, people prey on the elderly, and if you're a caregiver or a family member or friend, you want to be, on guard, on the watch for this. And again, you can sign up on our website. We've got a website that is aarp.org /Fraud Watch Network. Sign up for that. You can learn some tools. We do presentations also to help you with that. So, challenging budget this year. I just want to say, though, and it will go on, and whenever you're watching this program, we're always going to be out there supporting. But Jean, when we've got a challenging budget, ARP Connecticut was able to mitigate some losses in the budget. What were some of the skills that we used to do that? Or if people want to volunteer and jump in and help us, what would you say about that?
Just the ability to be there, community, give your message. I still am so overwhelmed by how positively we are received. This is something I did not do in my career, was work with legislators, and it just amazes me how much they really do recognize us. And ARP is a force. We show up in red shirts,
right?
And
Our color is red.
there is a sea of red that legislators often joke about. Oh my gosh, here comes the red. But we're a powerful force, and they really do listen to us.
They absolutely do. We hear that back from legislators, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on staff with ARP. Our volunteers, and you gave me a chance to plug our volunteer program. Thank you, Jean. Our volunteers are truly the face of ARP. We say we cannot do our work. Jean, again, I want to thank you on behalf of the staff of ARP. We're so happy to have you and the production team here, our executive producer, Marilyn Diaz, John Coates, an active member, helping us to keep Medicare benefits intact as we move ahead on health care bills. You've also worked on the Work and Save program, so generations like mine, the baby boomers, will hopefully enhance their funds, again, back to all of us living longer. So many opportunities for volunteerism. We've got some great training programs. We invite you to attend our activities initially, see what we're all about, and then because we offer so much, as I think you're hearing in our program today on caregiving, and then we can see whether you would like to be appointed and how that process works. And
I just want to say, as a volunteer, I have volunteered for a plethora of organizations over my many years, and ARP has just been phenomenal. It's a place that truly recognizes what volunteers do. I feel so very appreciated, and it's a great piece of my retirement to be so involved with ARP.
Well, I love hearing that. Thank you for that, and that appreciation is mutual. So one more time, I want to give you some contact information. Another website I did not mention, again, for just general caregiving information, arp.org/caregiving. Again, I invite you to call me, Elaine Werner, my direct line, 860-548-3169. My email, ewerner, WERNER, @aarp.org. Jean, just a couple minutes left. If you were to leave our viewer with a lasting word or words of wisdom, what would you say?
We didn't touch on this, but it's critical. that the caregiver needs to take care of themselves. I got pretty ill in the beginning when I was first dealing with what to do about Mom's situation. So please, do whatever you can as a caregiver to take care of yourself. And there's a quote from Rosalind Carter that we use every time we go out and speak about caregiving, and I think it's absolutely true. You either have been a caregiver, are a caregiver, will be a caregiver, or will need care at some point. So thank you to all the caregivers out there.
Well, that's a great wrap-up of our program today with a focus on caregiving. Jean, I want to thank you again. Heartfelt thanks from our staff to you for all you do and keep doing for ARP. We wish you well in your continual caregiving that you did not know was going to be thrust on you again. And I want to thank you for watching our program, Real Possibilities with ARP Connecticut. We look forward to coming to your community again with more topics. Again, if you want to learn more about volunteerism or you need some resources, give me a call. Elaine Warner, Senior Program Specialist, Public Outreach, Volunteer Engagement with AARP Connecticut, 860-548-3169. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you the next time. Thanks.